Good morning, or welcome back, everyone, to Pokemon's special event, Utrecht. I'm here, Alex Dow, as part of the full event. We have a fantastic showing for day 2. 75 players in the TCG event will be playing over in the back there, still looking for the opportunity to become the Utrecht Special Champion. You know, all the prizes are on the line, the CP on the line for the road to Yokohama. But it's not all that's happening today. We have a fantastic event going on as well. Just behind me, of course, we have the fantastic vendors. As we continue to swing around, the side events are in full flow. The GLC's been announced. We have fantastic players entering that competition as well. And do not forget, of course, our Creators Lounge, which Ross was having a fantastic time speaking to everyone yesterday, and we'll be back for that. But just as it is for today, day 2 is happening. As I mentioned, 75 fantastic TCG players, a variety of decks that's going to be really performing to the best to completely take down this championship. 200 CP on the line for absolutely everyone. Of course, we've got the other games. We've got Pokemon Go, we've got Pokemon VG, we've got the TCG as well, as everyone is getting ready for day 2 to happen. Now, I'm Alex Dale. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We're just going to shoot straight over to the casters for some real live action, and our soon-to-be feature match and for round 1 of day 2. Over to the casters.
Thank you very much, Alex, and welcome everybody to the Pokemon Trading Card Game special event from the lovely Utrecht in the Netherlands. My name's Ross Gilbert, and I am beyond delighted to be joined by the, well, the rather lovely Shay Byrne. How you doing, Shay?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to get involved with this day 2 action. Spoiler alert for you viewers at home. We've been having a little look through these decks, and the meta has shaped up very differently to what we expected, and there's some spice coming at us soon.
Oh, yeah, we've got an absolute cork of a deck to show you round 1. Now, there's a couple of things I saw in the chat. I don't look at the chat too much, but I saw a couple of things in the chat. Firstly, can you confirm the rumours you've eaten a power plant and that is what gives you the energy that you have on stream?
Yeah, so it turns out literally there's just a little power plant just over there behind that desk, and before I came on I was like, hold up guys, let me just and now I'm charging.
And secondly, we do need to talk about the difference between a regional and a special event, but that can be done a little bit later. We have got players ready, and we have got Jimmy Voits playing a Fluffy deck, finished 7-1-1 as a 7th seed of round 1 with a Fluffy box deck, going up against Joelle Delandrino playing a Mew deck.
Yeah, and on face value, this is going to be really interesting, right? Mew on face value doesn't like to take 1 prize card at a time. It wants, you know, play tablets, take 2, maybe even 3 prize cards at a time. And Jimmy has a whole host of 1 prizes that he can use. And there is some crazy stuff in there as well. I'd like to turn your attention, viewers, to a Luxray V, a Raichu V, a Yoga Loop Medicham. Oh my goodness, Jimmy has all the tricks up his sleeve, and I cannot wait for this game to get started.
Absolutely. Joelle here playing a bit more of a standard Mew deck. Does actually play the Drapion, which we can see in the prizes. But if we have a look at Jimmy's prizes, that is it is the only Luxray. It is 1 of 2 Zekrom, 1 of 2 Raichu. So attackers for Jimmy here not looking good in the prizes. Luxray is out, but there is still 1 Raichu, 1 Zekrom. For Joelle, we got the Drapion prize, which is great. You don't need it in this matchup, and a 1-1 Mew line.
Yeah, and so worth noting, I think, as Joelle gets started, already having 2 Genesects down, and here see the Pokemon Center Lady V-Star market. I'm sure you probably like to use that in this matchup to get rid of paralysis. And the paralysis, I think, is going to be really interesting, because Mew, you know, can play a few switch cards, don't get it twisted. Or Big Parasol actually could be huge in this matchup. Wow, not a lot there from Joelle, though, just double bench of Genesects and a pass. Let's see what Jimmy can do here, because as strong as his deck can be, you know, being able to attach lines from a discard pile, does need to get out, you know, 2, preferably 3 stage 1. So let's see how he navigates his first turn.
Absolutely. Couple primers for those that may be unfamiliar with the deck. Fluffy is a stage 1. That is the engine here. Allows you to attach a lightning energy from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon once per Fluffy per turn. Any Pokemon doesn't have to be lightning. And you talked about paralysis there, Shay. Zekrom's got an attack, 3 energy, 130 paralysis, and it does 60 to itself. It can take that hit to itself twice without being KO'd. Very similar to the Articuno we saw.
Yeah.
And then Luxray is just 120 for free energy, discard 2 and paralysis. But there's 3 in total, 2 Zekrom, 1 Luxray. 2 of those free a prize. That is going to make things awkward for Jimmy if he wants to go the paralysis route.
Yeah, because we see Pokemon when they have this auto paralysis effect, they're normally quite hard for you to maintain over the course of the game. So having multiple options for you to use is normally quite strong. But like you said, Jimmy has actually prized 2 copies of his paralysis cards there. Oh, are we going to see the turn 1 Raichu play with the attack that lets you, I think, accelerate 3 lightning energies from the deck, I believe? Is it?
Just 1 lightning energy and attach it to this Pokemon. It's not amazing, but it's a decent option if you've got nothing else. But then you have to leave it in the active and potentially take a hit, which I don't like, because if Duele goes off turn 2, you're giving up 2 prizes with the Raichu. One interesting note, Jimmy did actually discard his Yoga Loop Medicham a moment ago.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's a drop 2 damage counters. If you take a KO, you get an extra turn.
Yeah.
The maths doesn't really work in this matchup. Against Lugia, you hit twice with Zekrom. They've got 10 HP remaining. It is beautiful. Unfortunately, in this particular matchup, the chance of getting the Yoga Loop is not great. But there are, there's an ordinary rod, so there is a chance it could come back if the situation presented.
Yeah, and this is going to be such an interesting game. Like, the more I'm looking at these lists, we do see a 1 copy of Zinnia Resolve can be good for getting electrics in the discard pile for Jimmy. Not a bad start there. 3 Mareeps down, no energy attachment to attack, and Big Parasol is going to be really big, actually. If Jimmy wants to try and utilize paralysis in this matchup, Big Parasol will obviously stop that. But Jimmy does play a Drapion as well. Does play 1 Drapion and Ordinary Rod, like you said. And, Escape Rope here, meaning that Jimmy might be losing a Mareep here.
Yeah, that is perfect. We like Escape Rope and a Judge as well, so I love Joelle's turn here.
Yeah.
The Escape Rope, when there's free Mareep on the bench, you're basically guaranteeing you KO a Mareep, and then you play the Judge there to put your opponent down to a 4-card hand. This is a very disruptive turn. Yeah,
and that's, I think, Mew's sort of game plan into a whole lot of things, right? I think on face value here, this might be slightly unfavored for Mew, and Mew can beat his unfavorable matchups just by going Judge, Path to the Peak, and just disrupting every turn after turn. Like, Jimmy has to get a minimum 2 to 3 stage. 1's out to sort of get his strategy rolling. Duele just saying, if I can just give you a 4-card hand to start your turn for turn 2, maybe I can just disrupt you enough. Let's see what Duele has here. Lost City. Oh, that's quite big, actually. Lost City, making you put the Mareep to the Lost Zone, meaning it cannot get ordinary rodded.
Indeed, but one awkward thing for Duele here, you're playing the Mew that just plays 4 double turbo energy. Well, 1's attached to the active, 1 is actually just hit the discard pile with the quick ball, and you could, Jimmy can go with his single prize Zekrom here as an attacker. Lots of 2 prizes, but there is a single prize Zekrom. If Jimmy can go for single prize Pokemon, Duele could be having an awkward time with the energy here. If, we see a KO on the Mew, admittedly, 2 Mew get KO'd, you lose the game, but this is still a lot of energy to have out early doors. Could make things awkward as you go through the game.
No, you're 100% correct, and that is sort of the downside of playing the 4 DT versions, that you have literally only got 4 of them. Like, there is no other way to get them back here. There's a special charging format. It doesn't play a Silene, I believe, so once they hit the discard pile, they will be staying there. So let's see what Dre does. Still has to find a VMAX, actually. We see the Fusion Strike system now drawing up to 4 right now. It gets 4 fresh cards. Love to see it. And I think VMAX off the top.
We go.
First card
and
with the Forest Seal Stone.
Yes, love it. Absolutely love it. And we saw when we saw Robin play yesterday, that is one that's not really going to be used until you absolutely need to have it.
And one interesting thing I've just realized, Duele actually plays the Echoing Horn. So that Medicham being in the discard pile is actually a threat at some point to getting Echoing Horn straight back into play, and that is weak to Psychic, so that would be a very easy 2 prizes, maybe even 4 prizes if it ever gets benched, in game 2 or potentially a game 3. So that's another interesting wrinkle for Duele to, like you said, try and alleviate some of the 1 prizes that Jimmy might throw at Duele. He can try, Echoing Horn a 2 prize and take some prizes that way.
Absolutely, and the damage reduction from double turbo energy doesn't matter if you're hitting for weakness. You are more than getting a KO there. So no, I think that's a really excellent point there on the Echoing Horn, and we do just see a KO with the Mew on the Flaffy. Joelle takes the first prize.
That Mareep, so I should go to the Lost Zone there. There is a Lost City in play, hopefully.
Yeah, judges need to be on that. The Mareep needs to be going into the Lost Zone. I think they've just noticed it. There we go. And that is, of course, absolutely huge.
Yes.
Because, like you keep saying, Jimmy needs to get 2 or 3 Flaffy to really get this working. And that means that there's now only 3 Mareep available in the deck.
No, 100%. You have to imagine that Duele's game plan, at least in the early turns, might just be try and grief as many Mareeps and Flaffies as possible. You know, Jimmy is working off a judge here. Does manage to find Raichu V, which is good. You know, 60 for each lightning energy, I believe you could discard. Also finds the Forest Hill Stone and finds a research. So not a bad judge there, all things considered.
No, also had Stormy Mountains as well, which allowed him to replace the stadium, get rid of a Lost City. But that's one lets you search for a basic Dragon, not relevant, or Lightning, very relevant Pokemon. So that's how we got the Raichu out so easily. Use the Stormy Mountains to go and search it, and then gets a Flaffy. And you know I've got to shout out the lovely Okacheke artwork on the Flaffy.
Okay.
I have to do it, Shay. Favorite artist in the Pokemon TCG. So double Flaffy with a Raichu on the board. It's not going to be. The thing is, Jimmy can get an attack off this turn. That's not a problem anymore. The issue is, are you going to get enough damage with a Raichu, given that if Raichu hits the active, you're giving up 2 prizes? I kind of think you want Raichu in a turn or 2 when it can really smash.
I wonder if Jimmy, if this is a turn where he's going to use his Drapion, it's not prized, right? Like you said, the Raichu poses no significant offensive threat here. And I think looks like he's going to quick ball and a Drapion. Look, they move to the front of the deck. You have to imagine Jimmy's probably thinking here, you know, if Joelle's already used a Lost City, you know, that opens up the door for maybe Jimmy to use the Drapion, try and get it back with an ordinary rod. So I imagine Jimmy dislikes, because like you said, the Raichu, as strong as it is, 60 for each one, you need to have a whole lot of energies for that to really pose a threat to a 410 HP VMAX.
No, but I love this. This is one of the things I'm always trying to do in a game. Jimmy's trying to put Joelle in a really awkward position. He's basically, if he drops the Drapion now, you have to get the Drapion, right? You've got to get rid of the Drapion. But that means that Jimmy, his Flaffy aren't being KO'd, his Raichu isn't being KO'd, so he can then have a couple of turns using Flaffy onto Raichu, build up a big Raichu to smash, and Joelle can either take out the Drapion and then the Raichu's a giant threat, or you take out the Raichu and the Drapion is still a giant threat. I adore this play from Jimmy. That's why I think this is the turn to use Drapion.
No, I think you're 100% correct. And like we saw in the Robin Gudra matchup we saw yesterday, it's like the Drapion takes 3 prizes and then the Gudra just tries 2 shots, right? And like you said here, we can see Jimmy, like you said, Joelle has to kill this Drapion, cannot let it swing again. And that gives Jimmy time to use Dynamo, a turn attach, and then try and make it so where this Raichu can just take the last 3 prizes as well. And I love this play here from Jimmy as well, Dynamotoring onto the Flaffy, since Raichu can discard from anywhere, meaning that if Joelle was to try and carry the Raichu for whatever reason, not removing all the energies from play. If Joelle wants to try and remove energies, might only be taking 1 prize if he carries the Flaffy. And there we see the dynamic tail for 3 prize cards there for Jimmy, instantly getting himself back in the game.
And the math works out perfectly here. It needs 6 energy discarded, 5 will be 300, that's 10 short. There's 2 Flaffy on the board and you got your manual attachment, you've already got 3 energy out. If Jimmy can use a double Flaffy next turn and attach for the turn, Raichu will hit 360, KO Mew VMAX, and that'll be the game.
No, you're 100% correct. And I think Joelle, all he can do is just KO the Drapion, maybe try to find Lost City and or Path to the Peak, and fire off a Marnie and like you said, I think the ball's in Jimmy's court here. Like I said, if he can just get enough energy in play. And what is that hand? Marnie, Energy, Air Balloon. Air Balloon's quite good, actually. And a Zekrom. Air Balloon is really important, so it provides a pivot so you can promote something and then play them on. Over to Joelle, though, does have a VMAX and a DTE, so Joelle is ready to go. And you have to imagine with these Fusion Strike systems, he probably just wanted to find a stadium, I would imagine. Either Lost City. Does he play 2 copies? I believe.
He does play 2, yeah.
Yeah, so Lost City would be ideal, because you have to imagine a deck like Flaffy probably does play an ordinary one. Hasn't seen yet, but you have to imagine it probably does. So you want to try and Lost City this Drapion as soon as possible.
There is 1 Lost City in the list. Honestly, for Joelle here, this is kind of like squeaky chair time, because there's not really much he can do here. This isn't the list that plays Meloetta. You have to attack with Mew. So that means that, I mean, it's disruption really is the aim of the game. So maybe try and go for a judge. But Jimmy's already got a 4-card hand. We did Tails on Cramomatic.
That's a 4.
Oh, was it?
That's a 4, yeah.
That looks, oh, you can see the 1 coming from the other side. It looks like a 5. That legit looks like a 5. But Joelle, it really is just hoping Jimmy doesn't get the Raichu taking a big KO here. And you've got to bear in mind that Joelle, has the Forest Seal Stone. He's got access to anything he wants in his deck. I'm just wondering what he really wants this turn. Maybe like some kind of disruption, but you can't turn off Flaffy. Joelle's played nothing that turns off Flaffy.
No, you're right. I think it has to be Lost City. Lost City or Path. You have to try and find one of them. Ideally, Lost City, because this sort of Drapion is so devastating for Mew VMAX. You can't, if you can send it to the Lost Zone and just really stop it from ever coming back, you kind of have to. We haven't seen many rule box abilities from Jimmy outside of Wild Styles, so I would definitely be prioritizing trying to find Lost City here, because you know, Jimmy's in a fantastic position. You have to try and make it as hard for him as possible. Absolutely.
There is a Greninja in the deck. That's the only other rule box ability we see for Jimmy. So it's not really going to be too much in terms of disruption with the path to the peak. I think you're right. It does have to be the Lost City, because if you don't then Lost Zone the Drapion, that gives Jimmy 2 potential options to get the win next turn. But this is a problem when you're playing a free prize deck. So Joelle goes and gets the KO on the Drapion as expected. We know we got the air balloon in hand, so it doesn't matter what goes active, that's not a problem. For Jimmy here, it's really simple. You just need 2 energy in the discard. You need to use Flaffy's ability twice, attach for turn, and then announce Raichu's attack. Now that's a few things to do. If you can pull that off, you win the game there and then.
Yeah, I wonder how many energy Jimmy currently has in the discard pile, because sometimes that can be the hurdle with these stage 1 reattaching decks, is that you need to actually get energy in the discard pile for you to get in play. So we see, what, 2 basics in play and 1 speed energy in play. How many basics does he play in total?
So
8.
we've got 8 basics, 2 speed energy, and the speed could be the attachment for the turn.
There's the turn attachment.
Nice.
So he's getting there. There's the air balloon, so there won't be anything discarded. It's going to be a big Marnie here then.
Does he even have a discard pile? I think he's literally got 0 cards in the discard at this stage.
Oh, no, he can't. No, it's just off screen.
Okay, I was going to say, he must have the Drapion in the discard, because that didn't get Lost Zone, which incidentally is another option. If he can find an ordinary rod and a way to search it out, that would also be game.
Found the Greninja and an energy, so that's going to get 1 more energy minimum on the discard pile. Was there a scoop on that as well? Yeah, there is. So let's just get another energy card.
Oh, he's not got it, unfortunately.
I don't think currently Jimmy has enough energy in the discard pile. I think it might just be the 1, so he's 1 energy off from just winning the game.
But he does have a second, but does he even have an energy to attach? No, he spread the energy around his Raichu, relying on the Flaffy. I do like this, though, because if you look at Jimmy's board, there's 1 energy on each Flaffy, 1 energy on each Raichu here. So that means that essentially the energy is spread out. So Joelle can take a KO this turn. That doesn't really matter. Jimmy is still... Basically, Jimmy can give up at least a VKO before losing the game. So Jimmy is going to have 1 more turn. All he needs to do is get 6 energy established with the 2 Flaffy. And I think this turn, you kind of have to give up the Radiant Greninja or a Raichu, which I don't really like. I suppose you could give up 1 of the Flaffy, but then that's 2... And there's your 1 Flaffy, but it's unfortunately not going to be enough. I don't think there's another one in the discard.
No, so... You could, like you said, you could give up the Greninja, or you could go for a charge on the Raichu to get another energy in play, but then that's kind of counterproductive. It's going to get KO'd anyway. And I think it's got to be the Greninja. At least force some gust there from Joelle. And
there's an argument to give up a Flaffy here, but I think just put the Greninja active, use your Flaffy next turn, and then it should be fine. You don't need much. You're 1 energy away from winning the game. If you have an energy or an energy in the discard next turn, you will win the game nice and easy. But Joelle now just needs 2 KOs to win.
No, you are 100% correct. And, you know, Joelle does play the Echoing Horn as well, so I get a little read of the Raichu. But then Jimmy still has the open door for, off those research that he had in his hand, to get Ordinary Rod Drapion back as well. So there's still plenty of avenues for Jimmy. Just 1 turn away, as it were. There's a Serena, probably the 2 energy Raichu. It's got to be 2 energy Raichu.
But even the energy is not a big problem here, because with 3 Flaffy on the board, you will now need 3 energy, but you got 2 Flaffy and 2 in the discard. This doesn't actually hurt. Honestly, I'd probably have rather gone after the speed energy Raichu, because that one's not getting recovered easily, and you're actually taking 1 off the board.
That's a fantastic point, actually. That speed energy won't be able to get Dynamo straight back in. So let's see what Joelle does here then. Looks like Serena's up that 1. And then play the switch cards to reset Technoblast, obviously. And with that choice belt, the Raichu, the Mew VMAX, I should say, will be hitting for enough damage to carry the Raichu. And then Joelle will be 1 turn away from it. Lost Vacuum, what, the air balloon?
Oh, definitely the air balloon.
yeah.
Definitely the air balloon. Because now there's no free retreater, and you have to now, and this is the reason why you go for the 2 energy Raichu. I didn't realize he had the Lost Vacuum. Now you've got to have a pivoting option, because you can only Dynamotor onto a bench Pokemon. So sure, Jimmy can get the 2 energy back from the KO'd Raichu, but now he's got to promote something without free retreat. Dynamo, well, unless he's got a turn attachment, to be fair. That would do it as well.
Yeah, so... And that puts Jimmy in the gamble. Like, do you promote the Raichu with the speed and just hope to draw into energy?
Wait, he's got to press his research in hand.
He's got to research.
You definitely promote the Raichu with the speed energy. Because to be fair, if you double Dynamotor and then you research and hit the speed and hit any lightning energy, you will win this game next turn.
You win. So let's see what Joelle does here. Plays the Ultra Ball. We're going to find another Genesect. Does Choreo affect maths? It doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't. You're hitting 360, so you would need to minus 60, and Choreo minus is 20. Annoyingly, Mew having that extra 10 at 310 rather than 300, that forces an extra 60 damage and extra discard.
Such an extra resource. Raider actually didn't play Choreo anyway, so I'll be surprised if he can put that down.
That would be a shock.
How's that happened then? Well then, Joelle, look at that, got the VMAX, got the Path to the Peak as well. Don't mind that, just to turn off the Greninja. I think you want to make it as hard as possible for Jimmy. I think, like, Jimmy is still a turn away. I mean, Joelle, you are in a good position, but yeah, is only a turn away here. But Joelle, give Joelle full credit, identifying his win con and working towards it. I think you have to replace with the path. So just putting up walls for Jimmy, saying, can you jump over all these walls? Because I will win next turn, most likely. So you have to try and win next turn. And here we go. This is going to be a big turn here for Jimmy.
It's just lightning energy. You put the Raichu with a speed energy active. You could do if you wanted. You Dynamotor twice, and then that gets you 2 extra energy. Now, you could potentially... The reason you do this is because now this gives you an option to Dynamotor 3 times, for instance. But, here we go. Oh, there was a scoop up net. There we go.
Maybe hoping to top deck the energy, then you can just scoop up net. All right, so we need to see energy for game then, I believe. Let's see what Jimmy can get. 7 new cards. You have to imagine moving.
He's got 2 energy. So you attach for turn, you Dynamotor twice onto the bench, you get rid of all 6 of those energy, you do a massive 360 damage, and then that will be enough to go and get the KO. And that is a huge win for Jimmy there. And that was fun. I enjoyed that game, Shay.
That is I love this style of deck now, especially playing some Mew, right? Because you basically say J-Pone always gets 3 prizes, right? And all you have to do, like you said, is just build up this Raichu, and you can only have a couple turns to do it, because J-Pone gives up 2 prizes, or Raichu can give up 2 prizes, so you've still got a couple turns to just build up to that 6 energy Raichu play. And when you've got so many Dynamotors out, it doesn't seem realistically that hard to do.
No, it really doesn't. And it could easily have happened the previous turn with a bit of extra luck. It's one of those things, it's one of my favorite things to do in the Pokemon TCG. Basically, give my opponent a choice where it doesn't matter what they choose. If you KO the Drapion, I think I can win with Raichu. If you KO Raichu, I think I can win with Drapion. And then you are sorted regardless of which way the game actually goes. And I think the turn there for Drapion was absolutely perfect. And I just love games like this, because Joelle's sitting there going, well, I have to KO the Drapion right now, or he will just win with the Drapion. But I know if I'm doing that, he's building up the Raichu. And we saw Joelle kind of grab the Raichu a couple of times, and it's almost like that mindset of, oh, it can't be that good against me, can it? No way it is.
No, like you said, you have to go after the Drapion, but then you're right, just give the Raichu's time, and then maybe Joelle wasn't aware like how quick that Raichu can get powered up, and a 60 multiplier is hefty. But I think Joelle played almost everything he could, right? When after Drapion, when he could, Luxray determined not to get involved, and Zekrom, or that Zekrom determined not to get involved in this best of 3. But Joelle, I think he played that fine, though. Like, did the disruption when possible via Judge Amani. One card that I've been intrigued to see if Joelle opted to use there was the collapse stage, and that could actually made it quite hard for Jimmy to, having both players on a 4 bench, make it hard to flood the board with Flappy. But then again, I guess that reduces your Genesects as well. So peaks and troughs.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a Roxanne on the final turn from Joelle, but could not find it. It's actually, there's only 1 copy. It is in the prizes, this game for Joelle. So that is something to watch as we get towards the late game a little bit. But we've kind of got the game plan here. For Joelle, it's nice and simple. You need to be faster. You need to get off to a better start than your opponent. You need to take early prizes, preferably with Lost City. For Jimmy, it's get a bit of a setup, drop the Drapion, use that to buy yourself time for a bigger setup on the Raichu, spread the energy around, second, get 2 Raichu out. So it doesn't really matter what Joelle KOs, because like we saw, he KO'd a 2 energy Raichu, but there was another Raichu. We dynamoted both the energy back, and yes, Joelle got a couple of prizes, but in terms of board state, Joelle didn't really disrupt Jimmy at all.
No, I mean, Jimmy did manage to navigate out of those judges and the Marnie quite well. Let's see if Jimmy can run that gambit and navigate out of them again. But I think some of the vulnerabilities of Mew VMAX now, especially the DT version, is that you have no option but to attack with a free prize Pokemon. That means your opponent is always only 2 KOs away from winning. And if Drapion just basically gets you a free one, all you have to do is manufacture 1 KO. And I guess when you got Raichu on a 60 multiplier, it's actually, as we saw, potentially not that hard to do.
No, it's really not. And here's the thing, like both these players are 7-1-1. They have fantastic day ones. The difference is Jimmy knows he's going to play against Mew. Jimmy has got the game plan down and is absolutely prepared. And we saw, and Jim, look how calm Jimmy looks in this game. Jimmy knows this matchup. Joelle, on the other hand, did not expect to be facing Flaffy Raichu, maybe in the first couple of rounds, but not in day 2. Joelle probably has not practiced this matchup, and that gives Jimmy a gigantic advantage here, because only one of these players is prepped for this matchup. I'm imagining it's definitely Jimmy.
No, 100%. That was me saying yesterday that I think Goodra is a deck that a lot of people just aren't testing against because of time restraints. And I tell you what, if Goodra is a deck no one's testing against, Flaffy Box is right far down on that list. So I guess if you're playing for the Mareep, I'm thinking, oh goodness, like, what's getting powered up here? I have to just, wait and find out. And that's actually a factor, in the Pokemon TCG. If you can play cards that your opponent, might not know about, or they might not play optimal against in the best of 3 scenario, if you can get a cheeky game 1, then it's just a 50-50 shot to win the next 2 to get the dub.
Absolutely. So Jimmy here is starting off his turn. He's got a Raichu, he's got a level ball. No prize for guessing what he's getting with the level ball. If anyone's interested, there is a free 1 Married split. We got 1 the 70 HP from Evolving Skies, from Chilling Rain, 1 the 3 of the 60 HP from Evolving Skies. It doesn't really matter. Neither of them are terribly relevant. If there was damage coming down onto the bench, a 70 HP one would be preferable. In this matchup, it's basically irrelevant. You don't want to attack with them. The HP is irrelevant, so it doesn't matter which one. He's gone for the one-off if anybody really cares, but the Flaffy, which Mareep you're playing isn't relevant. Once again, we do see the Medicham hitting the discard early, and like we said last game, it is very much a case of the math does not work out to Yoga Loop. If we're seeing a Lugia matchup for Jimmy here, oh, you ain't discarding that unless you absolutely have to. But double Flaffy turn, double Mareep turn 1 is fine. You really want 3, if I'm honest with you. That's the ideal.
You definitely want to try and find 3 so Joelle can't, boss his orders and put you down to 1. But I'd be really intrigued if I can catch Jimmy at some point in the event, or maybe here in a potential winners interview. Why this split of Mareep? Because the one that he shows 3 of has a 1 retreat cost, and the 70 HP one has a 2 retreat cost, which is massive, right? So I wonder if this was a case of, is there like a gameplay decision for this, or was it just a case of he didn't have 3 of the 1 retreat one, which actually happens quite a lot at events when you ask people why they're playing certain splits.
We did just see a Zinnia. You can only play it if he's got 2 cards from your hand. You then draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. So it actually lets you get some lightning energy in the discard for Flaffy while lowering your hand size, and then you draw. And against a deck like this, you're drawing until you've got 6 in your hand after discarding a couple of cards, at least 1 of which was an energy. And now we see that 3rd Mareep down. None of them a prize. It doesn't look like Jimmy's able to get a 4th here, but I think we're really splitting hairs. This is what Jimmy wants. This is good.
This is all you want to see, especially with Jimmy's deck all being basic attackers. There's no real priority to get the attackers down early. All you want to do is get down the Mareeps, and Jimmy's done exactly that. And Zinnia against Mew is a crazy support. You're basically saying, I'm drawing 6 cards, and there's not a lot of supporters that let you draw 6 without having to discard your hand. So, an incredible support to you against Mew there. Over to Joelle, you have to imagine, I think the game plan is going to be boss's orders of Mareep and try and win a judge if possible. Escape rope works as good as a boss in this scenario, and was that the 70 HP? It's a 70 HP one. Yeah. Love to see that little geezer.
The higher retreat cost has to go. That is, of course, the absolute correct choice. So, yeah. That is pretty nice. We now see the Cramomatic coming down. We are going to flip, and it is a tails, it looks like. Although with these see-through dice, who knows what any flip is except for the players? He ain't searching those. So I think we're pretty good that's a tails. And here's the thing, right? We're seeing a very similar game to game 1.
Yes.
This is really similar so far. Joelle is going to go and get the first KO on the Mareep. Fine. But if Jimmy starts doing the evolution and getting a Drapion next turn, that is basically going to set him up just like in game 1. And if you can keep benching Marit to replace them, you don't mind going a couple prizes down in this matchup. It's not going to be a huge deal as long as you can chain those free prize knockouts.
Now, you're 100% correct. This is like almost a carbon copy of game 1. I wonder if Duele senses that this is very similar and might opt to try and prioritize a path to the peak here just to try and stop the Drapion, or at least make Jimmy find a counter stadium. Already quick balled away the judge, so I mean, I would have liked to see that judge maybe get played. Does he have another? Oh, it has another judge in hand actually. So let's see what Duele does. It does have the Fire Steel Stone, so can computer search out and search any card he would like from the deck if needed. Big Parasol could be helpful, you know, turn off any paralysis plays, but I don't think that's in Jimmy's game plan. Looks like it does use the V-Star. I've been intrigued to see what this grabs. Is it a judge? It's Echoing Horn to put the Medicham back into play.
Yeah, I love this. It's an easy 2-prizer, but it's also just taking up a bench space.
Yeah.
Because now Jimmy's only got 1 space remaining, and he kind of... You want as many Flaffy as you can get, and you kind of want a double Raichu, like we saw in the previous game, and this Medicham is just taking up a bench space at this spot, which is not ideal. You're going to have 2 when the Marit gets KO'd, so you can still get a Marit and you can get a Raichu, but it's just taking away those options, and oh, look, who could have guessed it? It's a judge.
I wonder if Duele was trying to find a boss's orders there, because if you can take the first 2 prize knockout, then you can KO Drapion, and then you just try and KO a Raichu. That might be a way for Duele to win, but I think the way his body language was saying, I don't think he had access to the boss's orders. But like you said, that Medicham being there, just taking up a bench spot is actually huge. Jimmy does not want it there. That could really hinder the setup. Let's see what this judge does. Just find his own Drapion, funnily enough.
He's used Forest Seal Stone, so he must have had access to the boss if he wanted it.
True, fair point,
I think it's
actually.
just a case of whether... I think it's one of those, well, I could have done this or I could have done this. Did I make the right choice? There goes the Mari. Mew gets the KO. So Duele does get the first prize. And I like your point about taking the free 2 prize KOs, but there are only 2 boss's orders in Duele's deck, so it can be a bit awkward in the late game. And we don't see a path to the peak, which again, I kind of get because you've got the awkwardness of having to essentially play around with your Genesect, and turning them off can be detrimental. For Jimmy here, it's can you just repeat game 1? We see a level ball here for the first Flaffy. Of course, it's got 90 HP, I believe, so it can be grabbable level ball. People use level ball for basics, but those smaller stage ones can be grabbed as well. And we've got a Raichu, but it's too early for Raichu.
Yeah, I mean, it did draw into a research off the speed energy there, so Jimmy been able to navigate out of the judge again really well. And let's see what the research gets. I mean, I think all you want to do is Drapion on this turn and make it a carbon copy of last game. Does he have it? He's
got level ball. I think he's got a quick ball. There is something, the second card from the left there might have been, we got a bunch of promo cards which are kind of, they were promos initially, which are kind of like a table with a very small ball on. You can't quite see when they're flicking through their hand. So I might have seen a quick ball there, I might not have done.
But can he move the Greninja out the active though? Because he turned attached to the Mareep with the speed energy, so he needs to find a scoop up net at this moment in time. Or Air Balloon, that would work as well. But yeah, so still needs to move this Greninja. It does have concealed cards available, so it's going to be a little bit extra dig. And you know, all these, you know, +2 from speed energy, +2 from concealed cards can add up, and actually navigated himself out of this judge. There's concealed cards. Does he find a switching option?
Oh, he's got Drapion in hand, actually. Yeah, Drapion is already in hand, so we're good.
Oh, I don't think he could move the Greninja.
No, I don't think he can either. We've got a Marnie, we've got Serena, we've got a Mareep, we've got a Drapion, but I don't think we've got any pivoting option, and the body language there from Jimmy kind of says it all as well. So we do bench an extra Mareep. This is important. You basically need 2 Flaffy. You need to get 6 energy on a Raichu over 2 turns, so it doesn't really matter whether you have 2 or 3, but you need to make sure you've got 2. The problem here, as we see the Dynamotors coming down, the problem here is you're now letting Duele have an attack, and if Duele gets a 2-prize attacker here, that is potentially a bit of a problem.
Does have the boss's orders in hand. Would need to find a modifier. How much HP does Raichu have? 200? Yeah, we'll still need to find a modifier, actually. There we see a lost vacuum. Getting rid of Drapion. Don't need that. And so we can draw more cards there for Duele. And let's see what he does, like you said. having that meta champ there as well, taking up a bench spot, got a Raichu there. And now Joelle can sort of go ahead on the prize cards now in a real far way. We're potentially going down to 3 prize cards while Jimmy is still at 6. This could be a big swing turn there. I imagine that is the boss.
This has got to be the boss.
Yeah,
that is a classic. I'm going to play a boss pose. It is the Raichu, so we are only hitting 190 without a modifier, so we'll need a choice belt or a power tablet. I'm just running through the kind of prize map here. Joelle takes 2 prizes here. If Jimmy then takes 3, Joelle can only take 2, and Jimmy can then potentially take 3 and get the win. So for Jimmy, it's really simple at this stage. You have to have Drapion next turn, and you have to get free energy on the board with a Raichu down. And then the following turn, you need to have 6 energy. Well, you don't need to Raichu next turn, you need it in 2 turns. But you need 3 energy next turn, 6 energy the turn after, and that will still give Jimmy the prize map before Joelle can actually go and get the win. So Joelle doing everything right here, but the impetus is still on Jimmy here. If Jimmy does everything right and it draws the right combination of cards, he will still be able to win without really Joelle being able to do too much to slow him down.
No, you're 100% correct, and that's when Joelle missing the Medicham KO there, or maybe not being able to utilize it, could come back, as Jimmy still, like you said, does have the avenue to victory. Does find a choice belt. Already played a power tablet though. Here we see Cram. He's won two ones this game. Oh, it gets a 2 this time. So I wonder if this, surely you find a path to the peak now, right?
I think it's got to be, absolutely. And it's just, like I say, if Jimmy draws what he needs, he's going to win the game.
No, 100%.
And Joelle knows this at this stage. Joelle's figured it out just as well as we have. So my point is that he needs to make it as awkward as possible. When Jimmy takes that free prize KO, then Joelle, if he's drawn it out of the prizes, which he hasn't, needs to be trying to play Roxanne, but there's only a singlet copy and it's in the prizes. So that is actually a bit of a win for Jimmy there. So we do see a quick ball coming down. It's not going to be for the Drapion. That's already in hand, although you need the bench space for Drapion. So this is kind of interesting. Is he going for a different tactic here? If he doesn't have an answer to path to the peak, then obviously he can't go for Drapion here. So this is going to be interesting.
Look, it's a failed search.
He needs a bench space for Drapion here. So if you're going to bench something else, it needs to be along. It would have to be the Zekrom to paralyze, really. That would be the only option. But no, we see the Drapion coming down. We see a Serena.
So it gets to draw 5 cards. That was an empty hand there. Does he find Stadium replacement to take 3 prize cards? And you have to imagine probably slam it if you had it, right?
Oh, he's having a good old think. But he's not slamming, you're right.
Let's have a, what could these cards do?
It's a speed energy. He gets 2 more cards. Is it as an air balloon and a fluffy? That is not what he's after.
And this is how Mew VMAX can stay in games. You know, on face value, like I said, it's very vulnerable. It has to attack the 3 prize Pokemon. How does Mew win games? Just by limiting your opponent's hand size and removing wall box abilities. And is that a concession?
Oh, it is a concession from Jimmy. We go to 1 game each. It was literally the path to the peak. Joelle put the path to the peak down. Jimmy didn't get it. And again, it's down to that prize map. With Jimmy whiffing the KO that turn, it meant Joelle could just attack twice, win the game, and there's nothing really Jimmy could do. And whereas Jimmy could miss the KOs, we didn't really see that from Mew. Mew was set up. There were multiple Mew with double turbo energy, and that's not what Jimmy's deck does. Maybe you can muck around with paralysis, but that takes a bunch of time. You're potentially going for a tie. And I think Jimmy, because Jimmy could have gone paralysis for Zekrom. That was still an option that was available to him. But I think he basically went, you know what? I wasn't prepared for that, so I've not got my energy in the right place. And honestly, let's just save the time and let's just go to game 3. Because Jimmy's going first, and Jimmy's kind of favoured in this matchup. So I like the whole, let's not muck about, I'm not winning this game, go to game 3.
Almost like a sort of veterans concede there. Identifying, I think, well, Jimmy thinks I'm favouring this matchup, right? I got a little bit unlucky there. Let's concede early. I think I had 17 minutes at time of concession, which should be plenty of time when you can win in 2 KOs, right? So I really like that play from Jimmy there, because, you know, when you're in the day 2, ties aren't as advantageous. You really want to get as many Ws as possible to try and get your way into the top cut, and I'm sure Jimmy in his record of 7-1-1 has definitely got top cut on his mind. So I really like that concession there, thinking there's no point trying to grind this game 2 out. Let's just go to a game 3 and give ourselves as much time as possible.
Yeah, it is worth noting we have 75 players in day 2. 8 of them will be making top 8, so that is a very harsh cut. We do see the 1 Greninja prize for Jimmy. That is not an ideal situation at all. That's about the only real relevant thing. There is a Marit prize, but it's not the end of the world. It's just just the one. Oh,
Ooh,
Stormy
wow.
Mountains here. I like that. We'll just go and get another Marit turn one. Just kind of get set up quite nicely here. And for Jimmy, he knows what the play is. He knows he needs to get the Flaffy out, KO with Drapion, and then get the second KO with Raichu. He knows what the deal is. One important thing to note, Jimmy is only playing 2 copies of Stormy Mountains. One has now just hit the field. Now, the other one isn't prized. That's fine. But it is worth pointing out that he will need to find that if a Path to the Peak hits the field. So this is a situation where if he can get his 1 Forest Seal Stone, for instance, that would have been a huge difference in the previous game.
No, 100%. And like you said, Joelle can sort of use that Path to the Peak a bit preemptively to sort of guard himself from the Drapion turn we saw in game 2. And like you said, now that there's 1 Stormy Mountains gone there for Jimmy, he will have to, like you said, either try and find a Forest Seal Stone so we can pluck. Oh, and it looks like we see a Vikavolt out. We haven't seen that so far. Vikavolt, that Paralyzing Bolt, 50 damage, and then you can stop your opponent from playing items. And Mew VMAX is a very item-heavy deck. Let's see what Joelle has. Forest Seal Stone, 2 Power Tablets, a Marnie, and a Judge. Not the greatest of hands, and if you attach that choice bar, that means you can't attach that Forest Seal Stone anymore. So I imagine we're going to see Judge or Marnie.
Yeah, I kind of like this. If you're putting yourself down to a 5-card hand because you've just got absolutely nothing, and this is kind of it for Joelle. Joelle cannot have a slow start in this matchup.
No.
That is the whole way Joelle wins. That's why Joelle won game 2, because he got going fast, did a little bit of disruption, and that was enough.
Wow,
what do we see?
that
A
was
single
crazy Marnie.
He got the Battle VIP pass. That's huge.
Yeah, everyone's welcome to the VIP party. Get those Mews out, get those Genesects out. That was an incredible Marnie there. Marnie's a risk when you go for it turn 1 with Mew, but like you said, you got VIP battle passes, got quick ball outs, and now Joelle actually gets his first deck, so it gets to work out what's prized. Nothing really too major, to be honest. 1 copy of Lost City could be semi-impactful, but I think Path to the Peak might be the better option.
Yeah, we saw that sort of 1 game. We saw that Lost City game 1 just didn't really have much of an impact. And, you know, Joelle knows that actually Jimmy's not going for double Drapion. Like, if he can get double Drapion, that's fine. That's a lovely bonus.
Yeah.
That's not the game plan. The game plan is 1 Drapion and then Raichu.
Yeah.
If you get the double Drapion, hey, yay, lovely bonus. But you know, that basically means go for the Path to the Peak, try and stop it coming out. And you know that Jimmy can't have space in many stadiums. Because you know Jimmy's playing all the Flaffy. You've seen a bunch of different tech attackers. These evolution decks don't have as much space as basic decks for all of their fancy tricks. So you assume Jimmy's playing 2 stadiums, maybe a 3rd. You see 1 there, and you think, you know what, chance of you having a stadium to get rid of Path has just dropped dramatically, and there's no way you're playing anything like Lost Vacuum. You don't have room for it in your deck.
No, you're 100% correct. That's the sort of downside to playing these evolution setup decks. It's just room, and look at, oh, this is a tough
Speaking
debate.
of Lost Vacuum.
Yeah, speaking of, do you get rid of the air balloon or Stormy Mountains? Going for the air balloon, don't mind it.
They're both good options.
Both very good options, but a free retreat pivot in a Dynamo deck is so impactful, so don't mind that. As Joelle finds his own Forest Seal Stone, giving him the ability to search out any card he would like at any time. And it's like we must be seeing an Ultra Ball here. Yep, Ultra Ball just to get another Genesect. And this is the beauty of that Mew deck. You know, 1 Genesect turns into 2, turns into 3, and then all of a sudden you draw like 20 cards on your first turn.
I know you're a huge fan of the Mew deck. I know you've been playing it a lot, and it is just, you know, you go from bad. I mean, I've played a bunch of Mew. I play all the meta decks just so I kind of, you know, get the deck and know them and all of that. I've played a bunch of Mew in my time, and it is just kind of, it just goes.
Yeah.
And like you saw there, you've got a very bad hand, you've got nothing there. Play a Marnie, oh, 1 Battle VIP pass, Ultra Ball, oh, I am rolling here. And it is ridiculous how fast you can get this deck going. All you need is a couple little things. I still consider Genesect one of the most broken cards we've ever printed.
100%.
Because most abilities like Genesect are limited to once during your turn, regardless of how many you've got. Genesect, you can, in theory, draw 24 cards in a turn. It is absolutely redonk, and it only really works with Mew because of the whole Fusion Strike thing. So gives it, it's one of the reasons why Mew just does not go away.
Yeah, you're always going to get set up for the most part in a Mew game. And when, you know, when I first saw Genesect, I thought, oh, that must be mistranslated or something. There's no way you can do that multiple times a turn, right? And then, no, that was 100% correct. So, and over to Jimmy. So let's see what Jimmy can manufacture up here. Only a 2 prizer in the active, so can't we? I wonder if Jimmy might try and go for the Paralyzing Bolts. Oh, we're just going to see the the attack off Raichu, the 1 energy attack?
Oh, that is not
are.
good at all. You get 1 energy from the deck onto Raichu. Don't bother looking at Jimmy's hand. We just know what the Marnie did to Jimmy's hand.
Yeah.
That Marnie wrecked Jimmy's hand. That is not the optimal play. Jimmy was potentially setting up a Vikavolt going, if I'm going to be giving up a 2-prize Pokemon early, I might as well try and get some value with Vikavolt. I can still win with 2 free-prize knockouts. But after that play, oh, that is... Because that's the thing. I suppose you're getting 2 energy in the discard for any Flaffy that might come along. Oh, I tell you what, if I'm Jimmy, I don't mind that judge.
Yeah.
Because my hand is trash.
Yeah.
And what I really don't want to see here, I don't want to see a boss's orders. If my opponent plays an escape rope, I will feed them a 2-prize Vikavolt.
Yep.
I am not giving up one of my 2 Mareeps here. I'm not doing it.
No, you're in such a vulnerable position here. I wonder what Jiraiya's hand was, because you have to imagine if Jimmy just went for the attack, you want to try and make him keep that hand, but maybe Jiraiya getting punished by his own path here. Let's see what he draws. Still needs to actually find some things here. You know, does get, was that a VMAX? So he can at least Forest Steel Stone for the DTE, or maybe Forest Steel Stone for the staging replacement.
Here we go.
And then here we go. Let's see what he gets. Opting to grab the DT, that would allude to me that he wants to keep this path to the peak lock up for Jimmy, basically saying, well, I can attack this turn, you're not. Yeah, you can't, I should say. And just turn off any outs for Jimmy, really making it hard. I like this play.
I love it, because if you look at Jimmy's board, Jimmy is not getting a giant Raichu KO next turn. Not without some... No, you're not. You got 5 energy maximum next turn. So you're not going to be getting a giant Raichu KO. So you know what? Why don't I just turn off your Drapion? Because that would be the best case scenario for Jimmy here. Cheeky Drapion, avoid Lost City, and just cheat a double Drapion win. Get a really cheeky win here. That is like your best case scenario. And if that's Jimmy, I want to save him in a Drapion. That's literally what I'm going for here. Because my board is not set up well enough. It is not your main game plan. We've got Drapion. Do we have a stadium?
I don't think we see a stadium.
Oh, no. That would have been so good.
Yeah, that would, like you said, just get a cheeky win if you could just get a cheeky Drapion out here. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Jiraiya actually manied Jimmy into a Professor's research. But all Jimmy could do, I think, is just try and slowly set up, Dynamo some of these energies back in. Was there an air balloon, actually? We could see a paralyzing bolt, potentially, if there was an air balloon in that hand. Because there's 2 energies in the discard pile, obviously, from that KO. And if there's... energy in hand plus a Dynamotor or 2 Dynamotors. Ooh, Zekrom. Interesting.
And, oh, there's a Dynamotor. So, yeah, I think we do have the air blues. Now we can double Dynamotor. And this is where we go to the Zekrom paralysis. This is... Oh, no, we don't go to Zekrom paralysis. The Flaffy is there in the active, and this is going horrendously for Jimmy here. And now this is a little bit of a problem. If Joelle takes a 2-prize KO here, this is bad for Jimmy. If Joelle takes 1 prize, Jimmy can still go, I take 3, you take 2, I take 3, I win. If Joelle takes a 2-prize KO here, then that puts Jimmy in a horrendous situation. So Jimmy has got to hope we do not see a boss's orders coming down here. And if we do, Jimmy is forced into just using Zekrom, and it is not what he wants to do. So Jimmy can get out of this if we see a 1-prize KO on the active Flaffy. Otherwise, Joelle is in a really dominant position.
You just see Joelle moving the boss a little bit there, saying, all right, there is 1 in deck, it is the win con. And like you said, if Joelle can take a 2-prize knockout here, Drapion becomes a non-factor, right? Because sure, you can take your 3 prizes, Joelle just responds, and then that's game over, right? So Joelle has really, given full credit, manufactured his way to victory in an otherwise, I think, questionable matchup. But the power of Judge Amani, do we see the boss? We see a Tablet, we see a Roxanne, we see a Kratos. We could see Cram for boss. We could see Ultra Ball to thin the hand. Yep, getting rid of a power tab. I think he already has a choice belt on the Mew, so wouldn't need a modifier. So he's just going to thin the hand, maybe take a VMAX, take a card out of the deck, and just maximise the odds of finding that boss's orders.
I like this. Thin your hand a little bit. Try and get, you can evolve the Mew on the bench. And then it is just a case of trying to draw as many cards as possible.
Yeah.
A boss onto that Vikavolt at this stage, I think, as good as ends the game.
Yes. Because
Jimmy needs to use his 2-prize Pokemon to take KOs on Mew. First time he does that, he's going to lose the game. So we do see that coming down. Now, we don't actually have an item card to play with the Cramomatic at the moment. So we are going to have to see Genesect coming out first. We've got a double turn.
Oh,
the boss's orders!
He just drew it without even having to use anything.
No, so now you take out the Vikavolt, and that pretty much checkmates Jimmy at this stage, I think. This is one of the rare situations. I know there's energy on the... Now, the energy on the Zekrom is a little bit... Oh, we had Serena.
We already had anyway,
and there's a concession. Jimmy extends a hand. We're not going to see any more KOs here, because unfortunately, Jimmy knows, as well as we do, he needs those 2 prize Pokemon. They are now essentially locked out of the game, and that means Joelle D'Alandrino does go and take a 2-1 victory with Mew v Max, and that was an interesting game, because we watched Jimmy just dominating game 1. Joelle was like, well, hang on a second. There's a reason people keep playing Mew.
Yeah, no, 100%. And in that game 1, we thought, wow, this matchup seems really easy for Fluffy, right? Very straightforward gameplay, Drapion plus Raichu, and then yeah, just basically saying, well, if I give you a 4-card hand turn 2, then a 5-card hand turn 3, can you manufacture that? And that's a sort of the great equalizer for these setup decks, is that, well, if I just give you a low hand size, you can't really get your setup, and then I'm going to put you in, make you jump over as many hurdles as possible, and full credit there.
Yeah, games 2 and 3 went basically the same. In both games 2 and 3, Jimmy absolutely had the kind of impetus. Jimmy would have won if his deck did what he wanted it to do. Yeah. And in both games, it was a combination of those hand disruption supporters and path to the peak. In games 2 and 3, there were turns where Jimmy had the Drapion and had the KO, but couldn't bump the stadium. And that was what turned games 2 and 3. Jimmy wins that game every time, if he can do his thing. Yep. So Mew just has a little bit of disruption, a little bit of path to the peak, and if I can stop you for a turn, because Mew's going to take a prize every turn. That's easy. Mew does that. Yeah. It was a little bit of disruption, and that's how he ended up getting it. It was really well done. It wasn't a great game plan, because it's inherently, I hope you draw bad off the judge. I hope you don't have a counter stadium. But you play to your outs, and you play really well, and you sequence properly, and you make it less likely that your opponent has the outs, and then you cross your fingers, and that was the best. You know, Joelle there played that game absolutely perfectly. It's not a good matchup, so let's try and make it a bad matchup for my opponent. Yeah, and it's really, I think, fitting when you were saying, you know, do this and that, 'cause I think that's all you can do, is just Marnie path and cross your fingers and just hope to Arceus that your opponent cannot find Drapion for stadium replacement. And, you know, law of averages, more chances than not, well, your opponent isn't, and then you can get some cheeky W's as he goes to, what, 8-1-1 now. What a record. 8-1-1. That is a very good shot. Like I say, we are cutting from 75 players who made day 2 down to just a top 8. There's no asymmetrical cut or anything like that. Resistance could end up playing a factor. And the thing is, we're probably not going to have a nice, neat cut. By which I mean there's going to be a number of championship points, and some people who make that number get in, and some people who made that number don't get in. Yes. So firstly, the more championship points you can get to not fall on that number but to be above is huge. But also, the more games you win early, the better players you're going to end up playing with better records, which means your resistance in the amount of wins your opponent have got, the percentage of their wins is going to be higher, because that's how we differentiate. If there's like 8 people who end on like 30 championship points, we look at your opponent's win percentage. The more games you win early, it's not a hard and fast rule, but it usually works this way. The more games you win early, the higher record players you're playing, and that usually ends up beefing your resistance. So, especially for these players who came in with good records, these first couple of games are so crucial, because winning not only gets you close to the top 8, but it's probably beefing up your resistance as well. And then, you know, if you can start with a good record and win 3 games in a row, you're probably going to make top 8 if you get a decent shout. And one other thing as well, if you win your early rounds, in theory, you should only start to play meta decks, right? Because for the most part, the crazy decks tend to filter to the middle and sometimes the bottom, but Jimmy there still flying the flag for the rogue decks there with a fantastic record. He can still definitely make that top cut, so let's all cross our fingers for him. But I do believe we're going to go hearing now from Joelle about his deck and how he navigated that game.
Hi guys, and welcome to our round 10 winner. What an amazing game, right?
Yeah, kind of cool game, honestly, because it was different matchup considering yesterday, like something new to play against.
Exactly, yeah. Cool. I mean, going into like a tournament like this, it's not something you typically would really expect to face,
like,
right?
You know, some Lugias, some others new, or Lost Bugs. This was something different that was really cool to face off.
Yeah, I
this
mean,
first
just
game today.
thinking about the games. I mean, game one was seemed like a really tricky game. He got his game plan off and got the Drapion V very quickly, then got the massive
Yeah,
Raichu.
I completely forgot he could play Drapion V, so didn't think the path. So yeah,
It happens
sometimes.
Yeah.
It was also really exciting situation. First time get stream, so you know, still have to get used to those cameras.
Yeah, of course. It's a lot of pressure to play on the stream. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you don't always find out what's in your opponent's deck straight away.
I completely had no idea if it was simply because I had some info that was something with Fluffy. I didn't know if it was like a Fluffy Lost Box or just rotating around the right.
Sure, sure.
I see that's also a Vika Vault in it. So yeah, it was kind of a matchup.
But then game 2 and game 3 went exactly as planned. You know, your Mew was able to disrupt him in his game plan, and then you're
really
taking.
well. Like he break a little bit. I think even if I judge him and get into the research, double research, double money. But yeah, went really well for me.
Yeah, because then you're taking big KOs, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
the
disruption
idea of my
and
deck
big
is
KOs.
always to stay consistent as much as I
Of
can,
course.
so I can always have what I need. And yeah, I always hit what I need game 2 and 3, so I could make it out.
Like I said, congratulations. Like a
you.
massive win, starting off the day.
Yeah, it's really
day
big
2
win. I really hope to win game 1 for, you know.
Good, gives you confidence for the rest of the tournament,
for the
right?
last 4 games, I think.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, just well, let the viewers know a little bit more about you as well. How long have you actually been playing the game?
It's 1 year I'm playing competitive.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah, this is my third big tournament. Otherwise, just played in shop, but you know, it's not the same thing. 20 people against 700, 800.
Amazing. So like, not too much tournament experience. Is this your first day 2 as well?
It's my first day too. Yeah.
Amazing.
Last
Okay.
time, I missed it, not for much, but I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's great to see you perform. You know, it's great to have so many new players. It's such a big tournament as well.
Yeah,
you know,
amazing
how you
community.
feeling now? You know, you've got your first win in day 2. Just got to try and keep going, right?
I'm really hyped. I hope to hit for the top 8. It's gonna be hard because I need to win other games. Opponents are always going to be harder because, you know, we are in the top right now. So
Yes, exactly.
it's going to be really hard, but we try to.
Okay.
Also happy to get Mew back instead of all the Lugias, which are dominating the meta right now. So
Are you looking forward to EUIC as well in a new format at the same time?
Sadly, I could not make to
that's a shame.
USCs, but I will keep one eye to see the format, how it rotates, because
of
it looks amazing, honestly.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tournaments coming up, so hopefully
we
we
got
get a
time,
chance
we got
to
time.
see you at some of those as well. Whereabouts are you from? Just kind of give a bit more for the viewers as well.
Where
from? Yeah.
I'm from Switzerland, actually.
Switzerland, okay.
Yeah, small country.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Swiss players, and it's
Yeah,
amazing
quite
to
a lot
see.
to Swiss play, I have to say.
Okay.
I think we had 2 in day 2 today,
Yeah.
so...
Amazing. Okay, well, like I said, congrats once again
Thank you.
for your round 10 victory. You know, just a few more, and maybe you can
Let's
get into
try.
top 8. But yeah,
try my
that's
best.
all from our interview with Giele. And yeah, wish you good luck. And
Thank
we'll
you.
go to a short break and shortly bring you back round 11 in our day 2. Thank you very much, guys.